Hello, everybody. So it is 1 o'clock over here in beautiful sunny Riga. Well, not that sunny. The winter has finally caught off to us at the end of February. But anyway, so we will begin the cloud release webinar. This webinar, as all of the previous webinars, will be recorded. So even if you miss it, because I know that a lot of people are attending from different time zones, you will be still able to see it on YouTube. It will be available also on the same Aranet forum that all the previous webinars are up there. I do believe that this is going to be a lot shorter webinar, so we've planned an hour and 15 minutes, and that's kind of taking into account that there's like half an hour for Q&A. If you won't have that many questions, we'll probably end sooner. It's also yeah, and also probably I won't speak for the 45 minutes that I've planned. It might be a lot faster, but that really depends. So we had like about 50 people registered for this webinar, which is, I guess, the second largest number that we've had. For the previous webinar, there were more. And I see that about 22 people have joined. Some people will be joining a bit late, but even if you miss something, it's not going to be too bad. Again, you'll be able to rewatch it, and if you have any questions, you can contact me directly. So what are we going to speak about today? So as the title says, this is the cloud release webinar. So that means that the cloud has actually been released. So I'm gonna show you a couple of things that I've already shown in the previous webinars. So just a broad introduction of what is the Aranet webinar. I will for the Aranet Cloud. I will give a short walkthrough about the functionality. I will talk about the pricing. I will talk also about the planned integrations and how we plan to do integrations in the future, and as well as I will touch on the cloud roadmap. So up until at least June, we have set out a somewhat defined plan to what and when we want to achieve. So this is new and uncharted territory for SOF as a company going into the cloud. So a lot of these things are new, but being SOF, we strive to make things at very good quality. So hopefully this will also be the case. So let's start off by simply reminding you how does the Arnett architecture work. So as you probably already know, we have sensors. The sensors communicate to the base station now. This has always been and will be for the foreseeable future a one-way communication. So the base station is just listening. It does not give any information back to the sensor, and the sensor is sending information to the base station. So this is one-way communication, and being one-way communication, this is one of the things that allows us to have that long battery span. So for some of the sensors, it even goes up to 10 years if you're transmitting data once every 10 minutes. There is this one point in time when you pair the sensor. Of course, at that point, there is a two-way communication. And for this reason, also the sensor has to be near the base station. But that is kind of an exception. After the sensor is paired to the base station, the communication goes only one way. But with the cloud, it's a different question, a different story. So up until the cloud, you only got one base station, and it could hear one set of sensors. And if you had like multiple locations, or if you had like multiple base stations in the same location, you had to switch between windows. So these two base stations did not know about each other's existence, and that's why we have the cloud. So it's going to be it's going to accumulate the data. It is already accumulating data from several base stations, so you can see in a single dashboard several base stations. And it also has this two-way communication between the cloud and base station. So the reason is, as you probably know beforehand, we had the possibility to connect to the base station in externally. So, but that meant that you needed to do a port forwarding on the router part. So that means you essentially need to kind of make a hole in your firewall. So because normally if you use a computer that's connected to your network, it cannot accept incoming connections, and that's for a good reason, so that hackers from outside couldn't just access your computer. But that creates a problem if we have this base station and we want to access it from outside. Well, it's really not possible without complicated configurations. So this is why we are introducing the cloud. So now, when you download the new base station firmware, which is already available on our website, so wherever you downloaded the firmware upgrades beforehand, now we have like the second version. It's 2 point, and then the other numbers based on those versions. But the leading two means that this is a completely different software, meaning that firmware, meaning that this one can talk to the cloud. And the big difference here is that using this firmware, the base station is the one that initiates the communication with the cloud. So similarly, as you would use your computer to go to a website, that website lives on some server. In the same way, the base station here goes to the cloud that currently lives on soft servers, but there will be possibilities to host it elsewhere. But anyway, so this goes out to the cloud, and then this kind of circumnavigates this problem of making this hole in the firewall, because the base station is the one that initiates this communication, and once this communication is initiated, you really can uh, get easier access from anywhere, and also multiple location support. So this is about the architecture. So next slide is also a one, oops, you've probably already seen before. So talking about the main cloud benefits. So of course, what I already mentioned is the fact that it's gonna give multi-location sensor data capture, meaning that easily see data from multiple locations in one dashboard, and very simple installation. So you don't need to be a computer whiz to set it up. And then, of course, in the future, you'll be able to host this cloud locally on some people that don't, on larger corporations that don't like, their data being elsewhere. It will facilitate integrations. We'll have in the future versions, of course, different types of alarms and things like that. So these are the main benefits, and a lot of them will follow. So with the next slide, together with it, I will probably also start start the demo of the cloud environment itself. But first of all, just to touch a little bit on the pricing. So being it's a kind of an early stage product, and where we see that there's a lot of potential to grow, we are offering the cloud free until 1st of July. So essentially, anybody could go to this website right here, which is Aranet.cloud register, where you would register to the Aranet Cloud, and then once you only need email, name, and set your password, agree to our terms and conditions, and you would register. Once you're registered, you will get a notification on your email that you are registered, and once that is done, you will get a link to activate it, and you can get into the cloud environment. So before I go to the cloud environment and before I show it, of course, the cloud is not going to be free forever. So after the 1st of July, we will start asking pricing for it, so asking a fee for it, and you can even now see uh, pricing information on our website. So if you just go to the aranet.cloud domain, so on our regular website, now we have a cloud tab over here. So scrolling down over here, you can set your price. You have a price calculator, so you would have, like, you could put in how many base stations, how many sensors are you gonna use for it. Let's just put it as an example, one base station with 5 sensors. So preliminarily, it's gonna cost you €6 per month, and if you want to already purchase it for a year, you get a discount. So how much is that? That's 10%, right? So you get a discount if you sign up for a year. So you can play with the calculator, put in base stations, put in the number of sensors, and you can get an idea about the preliminary pricing. Now, as I said, this pricing is preliminary, and this is only as what we think we are going to charge right now. This is subject to change up until then, but of course you will be informed if it's going to change. So let's see, are there any questions so far? There is a questions tab on the webinar interface, so just so you know, but there are no questions so far. So I guess I'll move on to the cloud dashboard and kind of show you around. There's not much change since the last time. And as I said, this is just, we're just starting up, and this is why we are offering it for free. So to just get people using it and get, first kind of feedback from people, what do we need to change maybe, what are these things. So this is the registration part, but if we just go to the aranet.cloud, it already remembers my initials. So this is how I enter the cloud dashboard, and this is what you will enter if you register it to it, and you'll have on the first sign up, you'll have a screen here explaining on how to add your base stations to the cloud environment. So anyway, once I've logged in, this is my own dashboard that I've configured beforehand. This is the first view that I see. So I can see my logging details, uh, login details over here. There's a bit of question from somebody regarding the prices, so I'll address that. So I want to ask regarding the price. Is that the sensor must come from Aranet, or is it possible to combine multiple sensors from different brands to the Aranet Cloud? So the Aranet is a well, there's two parts to your two answers to your questions. If we're talking about the radio part and all of that, it is all Aranet. But what you can do, you know that we have these third-party sensor integrations. So we have the 4 to 20 milliamp, and we also have the voltage sensor, which allows third-party sensors being integrated into our system. So if you have if you have something very specific that you would need to measure, I don't know, let's say oxygen content in the soil, and we don't have a sensor like that. So what we do is you can get a sensor with industry standard output, which is 4 to 20 milliamps. So that measures oxygen, and it tells your system, and it gives that measurement, converts it into a current output, and that can be connected to your let's say to the Arnett transceiver sensor inside of the Arnett. Yes, you can combine multiple sensors from different brands and use it into the Aranet Cloud, provided that the sensors are still connected to our radio parts. So the Aranet kind of system gives you a full end-to-end wireless IoT platform from the cloud to the sensor. And then of course I'm going to of course talk about integrations on the cloud to cloud part, but that part is kind of a full and closed secure system. Anyway, so what is the time range of the graph? So we are jumping ourselves a little bit ahead. I will respond to that whilst I show the graph dashboard. Okay, but if there was a question about the graph, let's then go to the graph. So when you go to the graph dashboard, you can choose up to 4 sensors that you can add onto the graphs. Let's see if I find some sensor that is not accidentally disconnected. Okay, so we have the third floor kitchen Aranet 4 there. What do we else have? Let's see, fourth floor kitchen CO2. There should be a CO2 increase because there's an event over there. Oh, is that sensor disconnected? I think that sensor is probably disconnected. So let's have something else there. Uh, is this one there? No, this one is also not there. Okay, let's have one for the time being. So what you see is essentially, your normal graph. The time range that you can set manually here can be even a custom range. You can have up to a month, a year. Today these are essentially all the ranges, and you can put in a custom range as well. You can also you have here a small slider that allows you to uh, to kind of select a different range. What also this graph has that the Pro base station didn't have beforehand is multiple y-axis, so you can actually correlate the temperature with the humidity. So you have the humidity on the right hand side graph and the temperature on the left hand side, and you see correlations there. You see the time step on the bottom here. So what you can also do is once you've set the graph as you wish, you can send this graph to the dashboard. And once you've done that, it puts it over here. So this looks pretty small, what you can do now is actually change the placement, and now you see these icons, and now you can drag and drop all the placement for it to look nice, and it's in your full full view. So another question came in. So I am still a little bit confused. If that's possible to combine different sensors to Aranet Cloud, and how about the connectivity, especially from different sensors with different type of connection. Example, sensor A uses radio signal and sensor B uses Wi-Fi signal. Again, no, do not misunderstand me. The radio part, you have to still use the soft infrastructure. So you can only use it with soft radios. What you can do is you can take a third-party sensor and connect it to our 4 to 20 milliamp sensor. Let me bring that up as an example in our homepage. So again, the question was, can different sensors be added to the Aranet Cloud? Let's go. I'll just show you the product that I'm talking about. So we have the 4 to 20 milliamp current sensor. So this means that up on this sensor, you can add a third-party sensor that, for example, as I said in the example, measures oxygen and gives that oxygen output as a 4 to 20 milliamp signal. Now that can be connected to this sensor, and in the Aranet dashboard, you can tell it that 4 milliamps is, I don't know, 0 parts per million oxygen, and 20 milliamps is 100 parts per million oxygen, or more, or whatever is the range you want to measure the oxygen in. And then that will send this signal to the base station, which will be connected to the Aranet Cloud. This is the only way to add third-party sensors. I hope I made myself clear. So essentially, yeah, I hope I made myself clear. If there are extra questions, we can have a separate discussion based on that. You'll have my email at the end of the webinar. The question is about, is download of sensor raw data possible from the cloud? It depends what you mean by raw data, but essentially data export is coming in the next releases of the cloud. I will talk about the cloud. I will talk about the cloud plans for future, or cloud roadmap. What is our cloud roadmap until June, right after the demonstration. So the demonstration won't be that long. As I said, not too many things to show currently, but still some basic things. So essentially what comes into the cloud is the fact that you can manage and you can be part of different organizations. So I am part here by 3 organizations: Softechnica, Rimi, and my personal one. I can log into my personal one. I can see that uh, flowers need to be watered at my apartment and all of that. I can switch between these, going back to soft. Then of course you can get to your settings tab, where you can change all of your profile settings. You can manage your devices. So you can see here that there are two base stations connected uh, connected to the cloud. So these are my organizations. This is the current organization, what I can kind of manage. And this is the integrations tab, which is currently not too much worth showing, because the integrations will be open, I think, from March 8th. The question is conversion 4 to 20 milliamp to real unit available in the Aranet Cloud. It will be starting from March. So that's really soon, so it's almost available. Anyway, finalizing this kind of work work through here. Okay, one more question regarding is it possible to apply formulas among measured data? I mean, math formulas, but even logical like and or. I'm not really sure what you would do with and or. Um, I mean, it's you can have that. Yeah, if you could give me a case, then maybe I can explain. But we'll have the derived measurements are also in the roadmap. Okay, so I see a lot of questions coming in, so let me do in a way that I'm gonna finish up with the demonstration of the walkthrough. Otherwise, I keep getting interrupted, and I'm gonna go through the questions one by one, what we have so far. Anyway, not much left to show. You have also like a view here which shows you simply the sensors as a table. So you have the table over here. You can filter by, sensor type. Let's look at all of Aranet 4s, or filter by metrics. So let's clear this one, and let's see, just temperature, all of the temperature sensors right there. And you can also send this view to the dashboard, and it's down on the bottom here. You would probably want to edit it and put it larger, but I'm just going to go ahead and delete it because I don't want it here. So, okay. Other things that you can do, well, what I already said, you can change the tile placement quite easily. I had placed them quite nice. Now it's a bit more messy, but just to show you the idea. Add a new tile, of course, and of course you can delete the old tiles, but I think the easiest way to go about this is just register your base stations and have a go whilst the cloud is free for the unlimited functionality, the limited functionality that we have right now. So just play around with the dashboard, play around with the settings, and we are very open to hearing your feedback, your suggestions, because the cloud is developing right now. We are kind of still placing priorities on things that that have to be developed faster, and things that have to be developed later. So, okay, now a lot of questions have arrived since I've been talking. Let's start. So, how to see the same base station from different cloud accounts? Uh, this is actually a very, very interesting question, whether or not it is possible to, well, I mean, you can have different access on the kind of level. So you can have like a user, and then you can have like an admin access, so you can configure that multiple users get different types of base stations that you can see from the cloud. So what will be the new features of the base gateway? The base gateway remains currently as is. It's just the fact that there is a new firmware which also supports the new sensors. But the main idea is to actually have this kind of access to the cloud. Yeah, the firmware update. So let's see now. More questions coming in. Hi, we are an ISP. How can we unify many sensors in a dashboard in order to have a fast view? Also, how can we classify by customer? This is actually a very good question. One way, of course, you can set up your dashboards as you wish. Each user can set up their own dashboards, so you can have specific dashboards there. But what we are developing currently is a tag system. So we also ran into a problem, for example, dealing with large supermarkets, that there's limited information how you can filter these things on top of that. So we will be adding in the very near future a tag system where you can essentially add unlimited tags to each sensor, and then afterwards, when you need fast filtering, you'll be able to do it that way. Okay, and or is meant for alarm raising. So we'll have basic alarms available in the coming releases. Then about more advanced alarms, this can be, of course, put into the roadmap, but there we kind of have to specify, very, let's say, strict necessities, what you need. So deregistering Pro from cloud is possible and easy as well, right? Yes. So probably some of you that started early the beta test saw that there was problems of deregistering the Pro base. I think that in this version this has been solved. So sorry for that inconvenience. Seeing the dashboard, I saw that there are options for many languages. Yeah, we are looking into multiple language support. Currently, I think it's only in English. But in the future, we are understand that that there will be necessity of translating it, and we will, of course, have the possibilities to switch between languages. Yeah. So essentially, yeah, we will be able to support different languages, but this will take time to implement. So can I control third-party gadgets based on sensor data once the integrations will be available? For example, turn on heating when the received signal, the humidity is too low, high. Yeah, I mean, you can, of course, but this control has to be done on your side. We can provide the data, the sensors, you integrate them into your own system, and then you can, turn on fans, do whatever everything you want. So maths formulas are intended to show calculations, for instance, to convert a level in meters into a volume, knowing the section of the silos, or into mass kilograms. Yes, so conversions, more advanced conversions, we are also looking into that. Again, there, very specific requirements need to be, asked and sent to us, and we will evaluate them. And if we see that there's really a need and a potential to put this, and a necessity to put this in, derived measurements, things like that, this will be available. So, can you have a main dashboard and sub dashboards? Not sure what you mean by sub dashboards, but you can change the dashboard depending on who's logged in. So that could maybe act as a sub dashboard. For the time being, the dashboard is the one that you use, so your login screen is, directly associated with the way that you set up your dashboard. And if you log in with a different account, you'll have a different dashboard. Hi, will there be a free of charge demo trial version for cloud after July? Yeah, we are thinking about having a demo version free of charge for a limited time and for a limited functionality after after the period of July, just so that people can get acquainted with it afterwards. Is it possible for multiple users to have access on one account in the Aranet dashboard? Yeah, so multiple users can have access to the same organization. So both me and somebody else can access the SOF organization, and each of these users can set a different dashboard on top of it. Are you will be able to handle GPS positions and kind of dashboard using a map? Aranet sensors uh, do not have any GPS information associated with it, so there's no kind of logical way to input GPS data. We will have fixed images of maps where you can set sensors on top of that. And for example, if you have a shop and you have a layout of the shop, and you can put the map inside and you can see in each freezer what's the temperature, but it's not going to be GPS based because the Aranet sensors are not GPS based. What about export and download of data? Yes, that is coming in the next release. So many of these questions, many of them will be touched into the roadmap. But before the roadmap, I want to mention the SNML, which is the first integration, the first public API integration that will be available as of 8th of March. Here is a link for those of you who do not know what is SNML. So SNML stands for Sensor Measurement Lists Format. So it's a specific format for sensor measurements. And this is going to be a push integration. So what does that mean? That means that the cloud will offer a push API that will give external applications to the ability to receive measurements pushed from the Aranet Cloud. So that means that the Aranet Cloud will be pushing the data to your designated endpoint. So you have to have a reliable destination machine that is able to receive this data, and then of course there will be description available of how to read this data, how to receive it. But the important part is that this is a push integration. So that means the Aranet base station, the Aranet Cloud is pushing data, and that means that you cannot ask it for historical data. So this is something that needs to be put into mind. But otherwise, yeah, look up this the format, and this will be the first type of integration that will be available. So now we have gone to the part of the cloud roadmap. So the cloud roadmap version 1.1 will be released in March. As already discussed, this will have SNML integration, and it will have the capability to filtering the sensors by base station, because, well, this is a very basic thing, but the current version 1.0 does not permit it. So it's so this is something that's gonna be available very soon. So going further down in the roadmap, there's version 1.2 which will be available in April. And what we expect to get into that version is derived metrics. So now, as you know, in the base station, you can have derived metrics from temperature. I think it was the average temperature, between two sensors and maybe min max. I haven't looked it up right now, but anyway, the other one, which is more often used, is actually the summation of weights. So especially when you're talking about growers and growing, tomatoes or whatever, where you want to have this on slabs, you can now sum two weight sensors together to get the sum of the mass, and now this will be available on the cloud. Unit configuration, this is basically ability to change between units, so different types of units. CSV, comma, separated value. Data export will also be available in April. Currently, there's no possibility to export the data from the cloud. It will be available soon. And another kind of good thing is the base configuration backup. So you can back up the configuration of the base station. So if your base station is destroyed or something gets lost, you can just download that configuration from the cloud. That's one thing, but also a really nice kind of application where many of our clients are using this is actually this cloning of the base station. So if you upload this configuration into a different base station, essentially it acts as the same base station. So now you can get two base stations that see the same sensors. So if one sensor goes out of the range of one base station, but it goes into the range of the other base station, you can still see it. So that's a nice thing to have. And the as far as the roadmap goes so far, well, at least as far as the public roadmap goes so far, we'll have in the June version, so version 1.3 of the cloud, we'll have tags available. So you can specify your own tags, as many as you would like, and then afterwards, of course, filter by these tags and have all of that functionality. Simple alarms, so basically threshold breach, send alarm in the cloud. This will be available in the June version. And now two kind of starred functionalities, which is file attachments and a map. So these both are can be potentially delayed to the next version. It really depends on the workload and whether or not there will be any priority shifts and other new projects, so to say, that appear on the horizon that have higher priority. But essentially, file attachments will allow to add extra files info to the sensor. So, for example, you take a picture of the location where the sensor uh, is located. And the other one, together with that, will come a map. So, but this is just, uploading a map file, and you can set, manually uh, that essentially where these sensors are on that map. I see there's maybe some confusion regarding what are tags. So tags are tags that you can add to the sensors themselves. So I don't know, you want to tag them by the location you've put them. So you put, these 7 sensors in Mac's office and these 9 sensors in Bob's office. So you add a tag Max, to 7 of the sensors, and then you add another tag Bob to all of the other sensors, and then when you need to see, just the sensors in Bob's office, you can filter them by the tag Bob. And simple alarms are essentially the alarms you have in our base station. Whenever a sensor level is breached, you will get an alarm on the cloud interface. And afterwards, of course, email alarms and SMS alarms also will come in the cloud. But this is just simple, basic first, flashing red lights in the cloud type of alarms. Okay, this kind of covers the main topics that I wanted to talk about in the release webinar. Time for questions. A lot of questions were asked, but maybe there are few more. So, question is how many base stations can be supported in the cloud, and how long time the cloud can keep the data. Effectively, currently, it is unlimited, as much as you are prepared to pay for. Another great presentation from you. Thank you so much. You're welcome. That's not a question, but it's nice to hear. To return to the previous question, of course, there are some, let's say, general limitations, but global limitations. If you would try to put 1 million base stations right now on the cloud, it will probably not work. But then again, you have to buy 1 million base stations, and we can work up to putting them, hosting them somewhere. But this will be a nice problem to have. So effectively, if we're talking about these virtual things, they are effectively limitless. It really depends. Of course, if we are talking about projects that contain 100 base stations and more, this is, project based, and we will, have private, conversations on a project by project basis. It's not going to be, you just buy it on the web, click it, pay it, and forget about it. This is a specific, project, but effectively it is limitless. What about the idea of coloring the top bar of each tile is red, orange, yellow, gray, depending on alarm severity, instead of being all gray? This is a good kind of suggestion. We are thinking in a similar direction. So having these tiles flash red when there's an alarm, and then what you're talking about here is a multiple stage alarm. So let's say a soft alarm, a yellow alarm when it's breached, a little bit, and then when you're really over the edge, then it's red. And that's actually a good idea. So another question. I apologize. I had problems to connect, and maybe you already respond to this question. There is an on-premise version, or will be a yes. We will have available an on-premise version, so a local hosting of the cloud. For details of it, if you have a specific project for that, please contact me or your sales representative directly. But in general, the answer is yes, that will be possible. What is the bandwidth needed, for example, 5 minutes supervision of 10 sensors? Very good question. I'm not such an expert currently that I can answer on the top of my head. If you can send this question to my email, I will contact our R&D department and get a specific answer. I don't know this on the top of my head. Sorry. So what type of connection you use in the soil sensor, and how big or how strong the signal could be? I'm not sure if I understand this question, but we use the same kind of connection in the soil if you're talking about the sensor connection to our radio part, it's using the same connection as all of the rest of the sensors. So there's really no difference, and the signal is also the same as all of the others. So currently no more questions, but I will patiently wait until more questions will. So yeah, can we change the unit in the measurements in the dashboard, for example, from parts per million to micromole? Currently, no, but it will be available in the April version. So that's called unit configurations. So yes, you will be able to do that. Yes, the traffic is encrypted between the cloud and the base station. If you're gonna ask me specific details about the encryption, I would ask you to send that to my email. I don't know these in detail, but I know that for a fact it is encrypted, and I will consult our IT department and let you know what specific encryptions we are using. You're welcome. Is the cloud accessible in Asia and America already? The cloud has no borders, right? So you can connect from anywhere to the cloud. This is the nice thing. If we're talking about the base stations, that there's always this issue about the frequency. Can you use this frequency there? Can you use this frequency there? But the cloud is just, the website where you add the base station. So anywhere where you have internet connection, the cloud is available, and as long as you have the base station. Thanks for the presentation. You are welcome. I'll wait a couple more minutes. If there will be no more questions coming in, I will end the presentation here. Is the technical support 24/7? No, currently our technical support is only in working hours of Riga office, but I expect that that might change in the future. So it's from they'll answer you from 9 to 6 p.m. Riga time. I don't know what are the plans of extending that, but it will probably become 24/7 in the future. Oh, and it's also in work days currently, so yeah. So 8/5 instead of 24/7. One more question. I registered to try the free account already, but now I can't log in. Why is that? Did you get an email? Did you get an email confirmation? Probably check your email. Check your spam folders if it got there, and then you have to verify your email after you've registered. But these types of questions, this is why the tech support is there, so you can contact tech support at softechnica.com if you have problems logging in. I'll wait for, you have still 5 minutes for last questions, and if there will be no more questions until 2 o'clock, I will end this webinar. Of course, if there are any following questions, you can see my email is there on the screen. So feel free to contact either me, or if it's something more like tech supporty, like troubles logging in and stuff like that, then that's an email to tech support. And yeah, and thanks for reminding. We actually now have a new email specifically for tech support cases for Aranet, and this is support@aranet.com. That recently changed. A colleague of mine is very kind of reminding me, so let me just put that over here so that you know. This is now support@aranet.com, which is yeah, the tech support email for Aranet. See one more question coming in. In the case that we have 5 customers with different sensors and base stations, how can we give them different access with view each other? I would say that if they are completely different customers, then you would probably, give them separate cloud accounts. We can have this conversation afterwards via email or via via call, but I would say if these are different customer, well, there are of course different ways of setting this up, and this should be probably discussed separately, but essentially, yeah, probably easiest way to have different cloud accounts for each of them. Okay, so it looks like we've reached the end of the hour. So thank you everybody for participating, for those of you who were listening, and for those of you that were asking questions. I've noted a couple of questions that I actually have to check with IT myself. Yeah. thanks. So if there are any additional questions, please feel free to email me here or your respective sales manager. And, hopefully we can make a really nice ecosystem of the Aranet Cloud that you and your customers are super happy, and we all will be very happy. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.